Anna, did you hear that?
Listen.
She rides like an angel. She's my Model A Mabel.
Welcome back to the Model A Mabel neighborhood. It has been cold outside for a while now. Well, Tucson cold, if you know what I mean. My wife and I, we zippitied up to the Santa Catalina Mountains to enjoy the snow. But there's been a problem with Mabel that I haven't talked with you about yet. You see, when I got her, it was comfortably warm here, and I noticed that she would run a bit hot, 180 to 210, mostly at 190. Then it got cold here, and that kept her good most of the time. Now it has warmed up a bit, and well, now I have to tell you, Mabel has a fever. Now that the chickens have gobbled up the restart grubworm problem and she doesn't go unconscious anymore, I can start to get my mental squirrel cage going again to try to fix this temperature problem. Let's start with the easiest intervention first. I'm going to change the coolant. Boy, I've seen some pretty fancy backflush videos. But nah, first I'll assess the radiator water once it's out and go from there. In checking out Model A coolant changes, I see people like to put vinegar in their radiator. I hear declarative statements that it cleans things out better. But old monkey fleas, I never heard a good chemist statement as to why, nor any confirmation of benefit. Even mafca didn't address the vinegar claims on their website. Well, at least from what I could see. For the non-Model A folks out there, mafca stands for the Model A Ford Club of America. So, for this time around, I'll have to accept the fact that I'm not knowledgeable enough to know if vinegar is good or bad. Will it mess with things like the head gasket? I don't know, but I'm sure someone out there will comment on it. But for now, I ain't going to step on that turtle turd this time around. Better safe than sorry. Now, a coolant change is within my intellectual problem-solving abilities. I bet the first thing to do is drain the radiator. Here is the coolant valve. Old body rust. My left thumb is about as strong as a sandcastle against a tsunami. Here we go. Hey, Jim, get it centered. Distribute that displaced energy evenly on that valve. There we go. It's running along the splash pan like fleas on a dog's back. Chingazo, I forgot to put the coolant pan underneath. I bet you old guys can relate to this scene. Puddinhead, get that centered. Some kids never learn. Well, now she is drained and she is continent. After that, I could move the valve with my own hands. Let's get that coolant container out. Then I put some hose water into it. But I got to thinking the water here is hard, so I decided not to run it, just drain it out. Come on, Jim, think before, not after. Hey, my head is on backwards. That's why I was thinking too late. I drained out the tap water without running the engine. Now I'm putting distilled water in to run it. Got my hat back on straight. Time to start old Mabel up and get it to circulate. Oh yeah, she's starting much better now. And the battery charger is working just fine as well. Well, that should about do it. Let's see how warm she got. This is actually the second pass using the distilled water. There is a filter inside the funnel. Not too bad in my newbie opinion. Here's how the coolant looked after one tap water flow through the radiator and 2 distilled water engine runs. It looks like the modern organic coolant to me. Let's run it one more time. Yep, Mabel is certainly starting up better and hasn't electrically blacked out since the grounding change. Now, can I figure out what's going on with her fever? Draining her for the 3rd time. No problem turning the water valve with my left hand after it got some use. Here is the coolant water again. The coloration is similar, but there wasn't any filtered impurities this time. Here is the coolant I decided on. It's an inorganic coolant. I did some research on the IAT versus the OAT coolants. That means Inorganic Acid-Inhibitor Technology and Organic Acid-Inhibitor Technology. Most of the information I found was biased towards the new organic, as the video purpose seems to be directing folks with new cars to the OAT coolant. They gave economic reasons, and that heavy trucks can use it as well. But they were weak sauce as to why the inorganic was better for older cars. I did find one passing comment about better rust prevention on the inorganic. It went like this. OAT coolants last longer than IAT coolants, but they don't do as good a job limiting corrosion within the cooling system. I will leave a link to that article in the description below. Exactly what the difference was chemically, I never found. But then, I'm not a chemist, and I wouldn't get it anyways. So there you go. If the information I found is correct, and we all know how reliable the internet is, after all, you're watching me, that makes using IAT coolant the right choice. So let's get this ice pack onto Mabel's head and see if we can get her cooled down. I drove Mabel a few times and she bounced around 180 and 190. But then one day a green gremlin crawled out and showed himself without shame. Okay, let's check to see if the lug heads were at 55 foot-pounds. Oh boy, you can tell I never had done this before. I can hear all the seasoned mechanic folks slapping their foreheads watching me. Unfortunately, the lugs were all fine. Time to take Mabel to the emergency room. The waiting seems like it took forever. The doc had mentioned about the possibility of surgery. Here's the doc. What's he going to say?
Sorry, Mac. Mabel's head had to come off.
Oh. Thank you for watching this episode of Model A Mabel. Hit that like button. If you have subscribed, thank you. If you haven't, please do. And remember, keep your head on tight.